After that, Delius began a long process of trying to help the small sphere understand their language, starting off by first seeing if it could recognize the written language, saying his name while drawing his name in the dirt, at which point everyone was startled as a bright light seemed to emit from the eye of this small floating orb, shining down on the written language. The tiny orb seemed to soak up the knowledge very rapidly and quickly began to recognize all of the words that Delius taught to it. And very soon, many other people in the village were enraptured by this small floating orb and the exchange between it and Delius. Even the elders becoming interested, joining the crowd of spectators as Delius taught it everything from what a rock was to the different age groups, being child, adult, and elder. And a back and forth became second nature between them, learning to interpret interactions between one another. For example, when the orb wanted to understand something, what it was called in their language, it would shine a small light down on it. So by shining a light on the spear that Dosen was carrying, Delius would understand that it wanted to know the word for spear. This exchange extended on for some time, with everyone taking great interest in it. As one by one, the small sphere began to rapidly learn all of these words, until, seemingly for no reason at all, it simply stopped. Frozen, simply floating in the air, not doing anything. For some time, people were a bit anxious, wondering if something was wrong with the small orb. Perhaps it had gotten sick or grown tired. Delius was quite concerned as well, as he had started to develop a liking for the small orb and their interactions, somewhat like a game. But after a few minutes, the orb seemed to come back on, waking up from somewhat of a nap and becoming active again, floating closer to Delius. "Oh, so you woke up, huh? I was beginning to worry that something was wrong with you, which sounds strange considering that I just met you," as Delius was quite surprised at the orb's response. "Hello, Delius. It's nice to see you after such a long time," the orb replied, speaking as clearly as he could possibly imagine it. Before, it spoke in single words, or exceptionally short statements, or even chopped up statements that didn't seem clear at times. But now it seemed to be speaking as clearly and understandably as any villager. "Okay," Delius replied, feeling a bit confused. "Well, you seem to pick our language up pretty quick. Is that what you were doing during your little nap? And what do you mean sometime? You've only been napping for a few minutes." "Oh, well, I suppose it can't be helped. There is somewhat of a time differential." "A time differential? What are you talking about?" Delius asked. "The truth is, it has been a great deal of time since I last spoke to you, Delius. In that time, we have studied and mastered your language, or at least I have. I am now considered the foremost expert in it, actually. It's been nearly a year since I learned your language." "A year? I think you might be somewhat confused," Delius replied. "No, the situation is simply complicated. But, as I said before, my name is Mira. I am a linguist, or at least I have a minor in linguistics. Primarily, my field of study is exobiology. I study living beings, like you. I'm sorry, Mikura, but I really don't understand what you're saying. I mean, the words are clear, but I'm not sure of their meaning. Yes, I suppose that you don't have those kinds of things. Your culture is still in very early phases. Let me put it to you simply. I understand that you are a warrior, that it is your job to protect and hunt for your village. Is that correct? Makira said, floating very close to Delius. Yes, that's correct. I am the champion of my village, the strongest warrior. Protecting them and helping feed them are all parts of my job. Yes, exactly, Makira said. Well, my job, my purpose, is to understand others. You see, you are not the only people in the universe. The world you live on is simply one of many worlds. Many worlds? Delius replied. What do you mean? There's only one world. Our world. I'm afraid you're incorrect, Makira replied. Tell me, Delius, at night, when you look up into the sky, what do you see? Oh, well, I see the moons that circle overhead. Our world has many moons. Well, Delius, Makira replied, I don't want to alarm you, but those moons aren't just moons. They're planets. Your world is just one world. There are others. Those moons that you see when you look up into the sky, many of them are actually worlds, just like yours. Well, not just like yours, but inhabited like yours. We have grand villages filled with countless people scattered across those moons that you see in the distance. That's where I'm from. I live on one of those moons, Delius. The moons that fill your night sky. Nonsense, one of the elders spoke up. You speak of people on moons. It's preposterous. It can't be true, the elder said, stepping forward. I'm sorry, I cannot remember your name, Makira replied, as it turned in the direction of the elder. I am Elder Rebooth. Who are you to fill our heads with such nonsensical tales of villages on the moons? Why do you come to us with these tales? Well, quite frankly, when I sent, or should I say when we sent the probes, the devices that you see now, this small orb isn't actually me. It's something of a tool, the same way that you construct a weapon in order to fulfill a purpose, or a bowl in order to eat from. We construct these devices. They are merely complex tools. This one allows me to talk to others and see things from a great distance away. And we have come, unfortunately, because, well, there are lots of reasons, really. Me and those that I work with came to this world hoping to study it, to find out what secrets and knowledge that this world might hold, resources that might be useful. But when we actually found a way to make it to the surface, what we found was nothing like what we expected. We did not expect your world to be filled with such abundant life. It, in fact, shocked all of us. We couldn't have fathomed the possibility that anything could live here, much less a developed and sentient race. You must understand, Elder, your world is different, far more so than any other, in more ways than you might know. Truth be told, if I were to attempt to come to your world, I would be unable to exist on it. My sheer presence there would mean my immediate death. Before I could take a single breath, your world would crush me into a fine paste. The conditions of your world are so extreme that, quite frankly, I don't know if any species on any world could ever survive it, which is why we considered the possibility of advanced life here impossible, and were astonished to find just that.